Hiyo, how are we all doing? Welcome to the Pommy and Fazz show. I'm the Pom, and as always, I'm joined by the legend that is Caroline Panthers' biggest fan, Fazz. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Favorite night of the week, as always, and what a big week it has been. My goodness. Gee whiz, meltdowns galore on social media this week, but that's what I'm here for. I love it.
We've had a good week, really, haven't we? Yeah, there's a nice. I think as the Queen of Chat has just rejoined as a member. Much love to you, Carl. Thank you very much. I think there's something very 2020 about Carlton. You know, the manic depressive Twitter, social media, Carlton releasing novelty photos. This is my home mentally.
This actually feels normal. You know, this is just amazing. I'm getting RSI on me thumbs from replying to too many tweets, but nah, it's good. It's good to be here. Wednesday night, favorite night of the week, and cracking show tonight. Absolute cracking show.
We've got a good one. Lots of hot topics to discuss in the AFL because the AFL is a bit like a soap opera, isn't it? So when you do a show like this, they really do provide us with the content, which is we're very grateful, me and Fazz. But the first subject tonight we're going to talk about, and this is a hot topic in the AFL, because as usual in the AFL, when there is a rule, when someone manipulates the rule, the AFL is shocked that there is some kind of form of competition. And that is the medical sub. Now, this week just gone, Beveridge says, and it's amazing how Beveridge sometimes is the most intelligent football coach in the AFL. It goes, why don't we just get rid of the medical sub and have a fifth interchange? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good, kid. That's pretty good. I like that. So what does everyone think? Should the medical sub stay? And if so, I'm going to put a caveat to that. How do you make it an actual medical sub? And the second one is, or should we just have a fifth interchange and just say, look, it's bollocks?
I'm a bit on the fence on this one, which is very odd. I do understand. Yeah, I know. I do understand the thoughts of a fifth interchange, but I think the same thing's just going to happen. Player gets injured early. Oh, they had extra changes and all that. I guess if you limit rotations to a certain amount, then it helps. But for me, I'm happy to keep the sub, but as long as just one simple tweak, all right? And I want it to be a medical sub. I don't like it to be a tactical sub. I want it to be the medical sub. But the one simple tweak that I want involved is exactly what I just said. If you're subbed out, you can't play next week. I love that. But the one tweak is that when one team uses their sub for an injury, the other team can use their sub no matter what. I think that's the one tweak I'd like to see, because too many games, it's already becoming tactical anyway. I don't like the idea of it being a tactical sub, but I think if one team can use it for an injured player, you know, conveniently, the Richmond one's a perfect example of the big fella getting cramp going off for a runner. Then I think the other team should be able to. But look, the easiest option, remove it altogether, fifth interchange. But I mean, where does it end? Let's just play all 44 blokes, you know? The same thing will happen. A couple of early injuries and a team's got 3 players on the bench and a team's got 5. It's you know.
You know, I see, yeah. And to answer your question, George, I was a bit like Gav. I took a social media sabbatical, so I will catch up on the jumper punch. But I'm actually the other way. I think the medical sub is just so blasé. Do you know what I mean? So blasé, and especially with concussion and, you know, long seasons. Like, I hear what everyone's saying, you're banned from next week, and I think that makes a fair assumption. But then I look at, like, say, Tom Lynch, who went off precautionary, and they managed to get him right the next week, and he was a test, and he missed it. But little things like that, I think, I don't mind the sub being used for that. I think, for me, if you keep the interchanges as it is now, which is 90 rotations, is it not, from memory? Have they brought it down some more? Pretty sure it's 90 off the top of my head. Should have maybe checked that. But I think if you have an extra rotation on there, an extra fifth, it's going to do what the AFL tried to do, and that's try and make the game a bit faster paced, because obviously, presumably, we're going to increase the amount of time players are off the ground in spurts. I just think have the extra fifth. If we're going to do that, or go back to the way it was for interchange bench, and if you get an injury, you get an injury. 75, thanks, Gox. Yeah, 75. So 75 between 5 interchanges. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could then you can start using it as an impact player. Do you know what I mean? Like someone who comes on in 5-minute spurts. I think at the moment the rule is when the AFL. This is my argument with the AFL. Every rule they ever make is open to be manipulated, and that is the element of sport. Sport rules are there to be broken. Teams do it, and it's the AFL who are shocked by this. I think the only way you could make the medical rule fair is you have a team of independent doctors who adjudicate the risk element of that injury. So an actual independent team of 3 doctors at every game who says X, Y, Z, yes, he's injured. No, he's not. He's fine. Do you know what I mean? But I think for the purpose of transparency, five bench.
Yeah. And I think the point, you're starting to pull me on that side over there, because the point you make about the interchange limitations, I think that it's actually going to be on the clubs now. None of this bullshit, 20 seconds after the opening bounce is a rotation, or, player kicks a goal and runs off. That's on the clubs now. Stop doing that. Literally, I'd even reduce it from 70, make it even less, and just say, you've got 5 players on the bench, they might have 10 rotations each, and just say that's how you're using them, and make them impact players. Throw the stats out the window of, this bloke only got 5 possessions. It was only on for 10 minutes. Go back to what it used to be like before Mick Malthouse and all that changed the game by rotating blokes every 30, 40 seconds. Put it back on the clubs and say, well, you got 5, you got a limit. Don't start your best players on the bench at the start of a quarter, and don't rotate them after 3-4 minutes.
No, I'm with you. And I think Gav here as well makes an interesting point. I think when he's saying we just hope clubs don't send concussed and injured players back, I would have thought, if you look at the soccer now has got the concussion rule. Do you know what I mean? The concussion rule. Cricket has brought it in. Most sports now have a freebie for concussion because they know the severity of that injury. I wouldn't mind saying, even if you had a 5 interchange bench, because of the concussion, say that you would then name an additional concussion sub. Because we're seeing all the AFL teams now, when the VFL teams manipulate the VFL rule of no more than 60% of the game played, they can still play AFL as the sub. Have the concussion sub still there to stop that. But I would caveat this with the injured players. I think that's on the AFL anyway, on the AFL team. I think if you're stupid enough, like Dustin Martin, I thought Richmond were very good. They pulled him off straight away. Dustin Martin at the end of the game said he could have played it out, and he has played games in that pain. I think then that comes onto your list management. Are you sensible enough to pull a player out for the sake of the long term, or do you take the risk, win the game, and deal with it then? But I don't mind the 5 interchange bench.
Well, we just know whatever change they end up making, in how many weeks, months' time, someone's going to manipulate it. So, we'll just...
Well, like Michael says, they're the masters of screwing their own rules. Like for me, I would love to just have it all. I think it's way too stupid. Like they've tried to make the game safe in a number of ways, but I think they've made the game safe in probably the hardest way, because they've created all these weird loopholes. I don't mind Lou and Al here knocking the rotation bench down to 40. I don't mind it. Like, literally because I think the AFL they've gone the wrong way. They want a higher scoring game. I think you'll see less of a higher scoring game because these players are so fresh. Yeah. I think the tireder they get, and we do see this evidence-wise in fourth quarters, how teams who have got a bit more firepower, particularly teams that have conserved, Melbourne are a good example, Pies are a very good example of this because they have a contained quarter in the second win, lose, or draw where they do slow the game down. They run over the top of you in the fourth. I'm all for bringing the rotations right down to your 40 mark. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And say,
I,
look,
I
let's
agree.
tire them out.
I agree 100% because the idea would be less rotations, less recovery, meaning you're breaking the team defense because players won't be fit enough to play the team defense. That's what the AFL needs to break. Team defense, as much as we, as a supporter, you love it and all that, that's what's killed footy. It's team defense. That's what's killed the scoring because you're defending from the top all the way down to the end. No more one-on-ones and all that stuff. So the AFL need to target breaking team defense, and the only way you do it is making players more tired.
No, mate, I think we've nailed it. I think, as usual, we've sidetracked ourselves. But I would love to say, I would love the AFL to actually just sometimes listen to the fans because I think they've got way too cute with the concussion, with the head. I remember when they changed the head rule at the start of the season on Blue Abroad, saying it's only a matter of time. And I did say, I hope Harry, I hope Owens, I hope Durden watch this and say, hang about, I can get 20 goals a year by learning to dive, by getting my head in the way in a safe manner. I called it. I knew someone would manipulate it. This rotation here, this sub rule, Colin would have been the masters of it because Josh Carmichael has arguably in their last 3 weeks had been their best player in the second half. And yes, they have had legitimate injuries, but it is being manipulated probably for a rule that's not. So I don't mind it. And my second caveat, don't you feel horrible for players who debut off the bench?
Oh, shit. It's shit. I hate it. Shouldn't happen.
Like, don't you think that's horrible? Like, Hayes debuted for us off the bench.
Yep.
He should have that moment, first time in blue, pre-game. We drag someone out of the archives, hand him his shirt. The whole week is about him. I always think, like, it's going to happen as well. One day someone's going to be a sub, and that might be their only game for AFL. Do you know what I mean? So, like, imagine that. You sub 10 minutes, you get on AFL, you do your ACL in training, and
finished.
Do you know what I mean? And you never get back into shape, and that's it. It makes me sad. Do you know what I mean? It makes me sad.
I'm with you. I hate it. Essendon did it on the weekend. I think they debuted a bloke as a sub. I think actually Essendon have done it twice this year. I think didn't Tex Wanganeen debut as a sub as well?
Yeah.
We've done it. It's happened before, and I hate it. I think it stinks.
Mate, yeah, Fab, you're speaking my language. I would love everyone play each other once, but like you say, we covered that a couple of weeks ago. You just know the AFL are all about the money, not the product, the money. Give me that big oil money. Give me that oil money. Well, this is a really interesting one now. Wise heads or young leaders. So this is very poignant to Carlton. And we know we have a lot of Pies fans in chat as well. Good day to you. Wise heads or young leaders. This is a big topic in the AFL. And there's some stats that I can show you that will prove the argument. So what we're trying to argue here, would you rather have a team of young leaders or are wise old heads there? So there was an article a long time ago, we're going back 7 years, where the great Lee Matthews said that if you don't have a team that's 27 years old average and 120 games between them, you're not going to win much. All right. And we know in the history of sport, young leaders are getting better. You only got to go back to Man United, the famous dynasty they had. You can't win anything with kids. United put a lot of philosophy in. But these here, if I bring it, are basically the flag winning side. So this is the side that they predominantly used with a focus on what they used in the granny. Richmond will go way back. And what we tried to do is go when they first won the flag as a dynasty. So obviously the numbers will go up because Richmond won it, 3 times? Do you know what I mean? They obviously got older. But you look at when they first broke the duck. So Geelong there, 750 gamers in that start in 22, 25.6, 117 games. Collingwood, 6 150 players, 24 years old, 101. As we go down, there is an anomaly, though, you'll see, though. We've Melbourne, 5. So Melbourne, one of the younger sides in experience-wise, but the core was very, very mature. 99 games between them, under 100. Now, very interesting this, because I think that the two teams to really watch this year are Carlton and Collingwood, two sides that have probably exceeded expectation. But I would say, and it pains me to say this, and I'd love to hear Carlton fans not kill me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Fazz will like this because it's usually him who's controversial. But I would say Collingwood are so much more superior than Carlton in tight, struggly games where their backs are to the wall. And it's very interesting. They have that key thing. If you look at the bottom graph, that is the last 20 years. So since 2000, so 22 years of what we've seen in the AFL age game-wise. And you can see why. Look, Collingwood right in that hot zone of where mature players do it. So you can see there, look at Carlton, 0 150 players. But the age of the list is right in that core bracket, but the average games there. So paints a picture, doesn't it?
Look, it paints a really, really good picture. I think that the scary part about that for a Carlton supporter is the fact that our list is at the right age. However, the games played is not up there. That's a bit of a concern to try and get those games up. The thing with Collingwood, that they are right in that average. And so they're probably, I know a lot of Carlton supporters don't give them enough credit. They are right smack bang in that average of winning it. But that's a perfect graph to show exactly what I'm saying. I said there's no contest, there's no conversation, there's no argument. 100% wise heads every day of the week. And I'm using this not just from a footy point of view. I'm using this from a workplace point of view, from a teaching point of view, from whatever it is. If you don't have the wise heads and the experience around the young leaders, then young leaders never become wise heads. You can be a good young leader, but if you've got no one to look up to, no one to mentor you, no one to get you through, you will never get there. Mark Murphy speaks about it all the time. I speak about it all the time when we went through our rebuild. Who are these bringing all these kids in? Who are they there to look up to? Like I said, I think you look at the Pies, you look at Geelong, Carlton, they're just too young. Carlton are just too young. We didn't have a single 30-year-old on the weekend. And it's all well and good. We've got in this mentality, this mindset. Essendon supporters have got to be careful. North Melbourne supporters have got to be careful. You don't get stuck in this stupid mindset of saying, hey, it's really good. Oh, look how young we are. It's bullshit. We're too young. We need to get 29, 30, 31, 32-year-olds. I don't care where you're going to get them in the team, because that's what wins your finals. That's what wins your grand finals. It's great to have a young building team. It is. I love it. But Carlton supporters have got stuck in this mentality of, oh, he's young. Oh, I like that. It's pathetic. Essendon fans are getting there as well, saying, oh, we've got a great young list. Oh, awesome. Well done. Great young list. Awesome. Go get rid of Heppel at the end of the year like you want to. What are you going to do? It's ridiculous. Drives me insane.
Mate, spot on. And obviously, that if we go back to the graph as well, so we've gone with the best 22 based on what Voss has picked the most. So you'd go probably, that would be the round 2, round 3 side combination. Obviously, since the time of then as well, Cripps and Sard today will go over the 150. But you actually look there, it's damning. And a great comment here by Bugsbow, probably why Plowman and Noons get games. Again, guys who have got experience. But what is interesting, and I wanted to put this out there, I don't know if people watch the Blue Abroad show. I went into a lot about what I do for work as development. So I spend a lot of time on the mind. There is a great thing that I think sometimes it's a very AFL thing, but it's a very Carlton thing, that time fixes things. And there's an old saying that a great golfer, a hero of mine, Ben Hogan, used to say that golf is the only sport in the world that you can't practice and get better. practice makes permanent. It doesn't make perfect. And he's spot on. Practice makes permanent. But what you do find, interestingly, in development is when a man hits 30, his ability to handle pressure infinitely, statistically improves from a young man. And there's quite a simple reason why. We have kids, we have mortgages, we have real life problems that suddenly inconsequential problems like our jobs, sport, work don't really matter. Do you know what I mean? So you naturally do it. But what you've got to do is exactly what Fazz says. Have the people around there to kind of help you. And it's a great little talking point when you look at certain teams in the AFL and how teams kind of get round stress. Do you know what I mean? Get round stress, negate stress and things like that. So you can actually see, like, Carlton would be a great example in quarter 4 this week. It's really interesting, quarter 4, because of how Carlton, how their stats changed. So it's really interesting. Sam Walsh dropped to 50%. Adam Sard dropped to 40%. Fisher dropped to 25%. Setterfield went at 50%. And then you're looking up for these leaders' names in there, and you're not seeing increases aside from Cripps. Cripps's efficiency went really up. Silvani, no surprise, went really up. And then if you look on the polar end of Collingwood, on average, Steeled side bottom, Taylor Adams, Crisp, and Pendlebury increase their efficiency, just their ability to hit targets, by 13.8% when the game is in its 4th quarter within 2 goals. That is a huge change from it. And what I want you to do is put yourself in the mindset of being young again. It's hard, I know. But I always used to look at my bosses, and my granddad would be a great example. When shit hit the fan, I used to look at him, and he always used to say these words to me: son, don't you ever shit yourself until I shit myself. Because when I shit myself, you better fucking hit the dirt. And that always used to make me feel so confident. And as I've got older, I say that to my kids: don't panic. When dad panics, it's time to panic. But
mate, you are spot on. That is the number one line. I'm a team leader at my work, and I say to my team, and they're not kids; they're obviously adults, a little bit less experienced, and I say to them, "Don't panic unless I'm panicking." That's literally, I say it all the time. If they were listening now, they would be like, "Oh, here we go again," because I always say, "Hey, don't stress. Am I stressed? Then you don't need to be stressed." I love it because I say it every single day. A great quote.
Mate, it is, and it's something that I see at the moment. I'm doing managers training at work. I'm doing managers training at work with some of the young guys who are just coming through the system. So they're very young. And it's something that I see quite a lot when they get their first team. Something bad will happen. Could be something like a customer call has gone horrifically, and they're trying to find the answer. The customer's irate, and they're starting to panic. And then I hear the call of the sales associate, and they shit themselves. They're like, oh my God, the guy telling me what to do shitting himself. Oh, I'm double shitting himself. Where genuinely my kind of attitude is very blasé anyway. So like someone will tell me the most catastrophic thing, but I've always had that internal belief that I don't care enough. Like I'm psychologically fucked because I worry about serious things like death and health and things like that. I don't worry about inconsequential things about some person who's angry because their insurance premiums are out. So I look at things very black and white. But then I go back to when I was a 19-year-old trying to get on the golf tour, being a golfer. My pressure was brilliant. I had problems with application, but I used to perform better under pressure. It's a hard thing to teach, but that was because I had very good role models. So what I'm trying to get at here, really importantly, is these players like Ben's talking about. It's having that ability, that confidence, that ability to stand up. And that's why, like Paul says here, do you know what I mean? You recruit a team of champion mindset. That is a huge thing. And like Gina's saying here, 20 missed tackles. That that comes from mindset. And you look at Carlton's missed tackles, there's more in the second half when the game's on the line. You also look at Carlton's clangers massively increase as they got closer to goal. 3 shots they had, which could have put them 12 points ahead, made horrific mistakes, started by the Harry Mackay shot in front. And Harry Mackay, interestingly, a man who does suffer from what we call pressure triggers, has done that 7 times this year when there's been a chance to go within a goal. And it's interesting that he's done that 4 times as well and just has actually taken a proper set shot. So these are little things that they're called pressure triggers, but something that if you've got a good team of leaders around, it's very easy to alleviate. So it's an interesting little thing.
Well, it's another cliche, but it's a cliche because it's great, and that's you can't teach experience. And when shit hits the fan, who do you look to? And I'm not just talking about footy, I'm talking about workplace. When shit hits the fan, who do you look to? You look to your leaders. And when you look at your leaders, now this can be Carlton, it can be your workplace, or whatever. You look at your leaders and you think, I'm not sure if you've been there and back before, or I'm not sure if you're able to achieve this. If you have that one element of doubt in your leaders, it's all over. So we use Carlton as the example. When shit was hitting the fan on Saturday, you turn to your leaders. Doc, Cripper, Weeders, he's just a kid. Walsh, he's just a kid. You can't trust them. You couldn't trust them. And as great of players as they are, they've achieved nothing. They haven't been there and back. You can't trust them. It's like like I said, your workplace. When shit hits the fan, you need to be able to back and trust your leader to get you out of that mess or to show you how to get out of that mess. And if you don't, if that trust isn't there, then it's game over. And I genuinely believe one of the biggest issues at Carlton, it has been for a while, is we do not have the leaders. And leadership isn't just crashing packs like a bull and kicking a 50-meter penalty. Leadership isn't coming back from 2 ACLs. That's not leadership, all right? That's being a fucking great person and a really good footballer, but it's not leadership. And I think at 26 or 27, however old Cripps is, he's going to be a much better leader in 3 or 4 years' time than what he is now. And that's nothing against him. We don't have much of a choice, but they just don't have the right people around them. That's my biggest issue.
I agree with you, and I think Carl's nails it. I know for a fact there is not enough support psychology-wise in the AFL at all at any level. And I know, speaking to some people in the industry as well, this is a new area they're going down, which has existed in sport since the 80s. And it's a scary thing. But then again, you've got to remember, up till 2018, only 16 sides were signed up to Champions data. They actually still kept data by notebook and pen. So this is what you're dealing with as a thing. But your dad here, Fazz Senior, this is something that you look for. So in my role, I can tell you from an output-wise as a golf coach at the professional level and now doing what I do, one of the things I look for under pressure that tells me you can handle it is when basics don't go missing. And He nails it here, Fazz. Stick to the basics. And it's why Lana will love this. Sauce is very good. You look at Sauce, it's very, very basic what he does. And that's why he stands out. The basics are covered. Do you know what I mean? He takes 2 arms in a tackle. Very basic. He looks up. That's why he has such high inside 50 numbers to goals created, because he looks up twice. He looks up as he's running, looks up before he kicks it. And these are the little things. And I can tell you, I won't name the guy, but there was a guy I started coaching. He was the world number 77 when I coached him. And I remember the first lesson I ever gave him was I asked him to show me his grip. And he kind of took the piss because he was like, I'm a better golfer than you. Why are you asking me to do that? And it was amazing that his grip was so poor in all the video footage I showed him under pressure, because he started to think big term. I'm trying to win 6 figures here. Fuck the first ever golf lesson I ever had, how to hold the golf club. He's starting to think advanced. Oh, I need to control my spin rate, my launch through entry. And I'm like, no, under pressure, mate. Make sure you're set up to the ball right. You're holding the club correctly. your weight is evenly distributed, because it's easy to forget the basics when you're under the shit. And like Alex says here, I always counter this. Bravery in its physical form is usually under pressure how much heart, will, and intent you have. And I would say that's all mindset. And I would say you see Carlton's low tackle numbers genuinely come from when we're under pressure, because the basics aren't applied. So a great footage to prove that point. Watch Fogarty bound through Carlton. So as the kick comes inside 50, Lockie O'Brien is instinctively going towards the dummy run, even though it's covered to help out. You've got Plowman who slots into a hole, trying to create a block for McGovern. At that stage, though, McGovern's noticed the run from Tex. So the basics of communication at this point, they're lost, right?
Yeah.
They're lost. And you look at Carlton when they peel off well, you see people scream at each other. So basics die. Basics die. But then watch the positioning of these players. It's not a surprise they couldn't tackle them, because look at how they are so off balance. That Lockie O'Brien's going off to buy a fucking hot dog.
Oh, mate, I reckon I could have brushed past Lockie O'Brien with that challenge, but I think it's the point is, and to go back to what Chris was saying before about the being a hero, and that's the thing, leadership isn't jump on my back and let me do it, boys, which is what Carlton are criminals of. We are criminal at shit's getting hard. Where's Juddy? He'll save us. Or Fev will kick 8. Now it's Cripper. Now it's Walsh. We are criminals, and we've been criminal at it for so long, of looking for that person who's going to save us. I said it on the Carlton people with Terry last week, when I said a good leader, a great leader, brings people with them. Not let me do it all. I think about my job. What type of a leader would I be if I said, hey, don't worry, I'll do it all. You don't worry, I've got this covered. That's not a good leader. That's a coward, for one, because you're not trusting your team, right? That's being cowardice. And two, it's very egotistical to think, oh, I can do it and you can't. That's not a leader. A leader brings people with them. You, Pommy, make the best point ever when you said you would much rather Cripps play that game, that handball dish out game. We're going to win more games when he does that, rather than when he has 38 and kicks 4. That was the best point I think I've ever heard in my life, because it is true. You can't jump on the back of one person and say, carry us home, mate. That's not a leader.
Mate, spawn, and it's one of them things. Like, I saw a comment here saying that it's something you're born with. It's not something you can learn from a book. I agree with that to an extent, Paul, that there is very good scientific evidence that it's inherent. But you've got to remember, everyone born is born basically as an empty slate, and the habits and the habitual learnings they do. And there is great evidence that I always use this as an example in golf. I used to use it as an example when we talked about triggers, because people don't understand their triggers, and everyone's got many triggers for happiness, triggers for shitting themselves. But a great example is, and this happens every time I take my wife out, I'll get in the car and she'll go, oh, babe, did you lock the back door? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, fuck. And I'll go and check, and I have locked it. But I've done that my entire life, probably since I've lived on my own, always check the doors are locked. But the minute I'm questioned about it, I can't tell you to do it. And that is how pressure works. So that's a great point by Fazz Senior. Basics. Basics forget you, because like that golfer I told you about I was coaching, he's thinking big picture. Like me, when I get in the car, I'm thinking of taking my wife on a hot date. I'm not thinking about locking the door. Do you know what I mean? But I've done it instinctively. It's become such an ingrained habit. But there was a point in my life before something happened to me and I got broken into, I didn't lock the door instinctively. I'd just be like, oh, fuck. Right, let's go. And like Carl said here, great point. I know that she is into her psychology like me. We like playing with the mind. This is a great point. If your mindset is right, the body will follow. And it is. I always break it down very basically. I've spent a lot of time. I did 2 years additional in psychology when I went as a professional golf coach, something that turns me on. But I subscribe to all the textbooks, like Paul said, are bollocks. And this is why I think they're bollocks, because when we were first born as a human, We didn't have psychology when we were in the caves. So this is how society was built. You and me are in a cave, right? We're in a little tribe. You know what really upsets me, Fazz? Does my fucking head in. I can kill the woolly mammoth, but I actually get sad and bored when I have to skin the fucker. But Fazz, you have the opposite. You find sitting out in the wild for 7 hours the most depressing thing you've ever thought of, waiting for it. So that is how we become human. It was basic. You'd stop hunting them. I enjoyed it, but I didn't like making it. So you made it. And it's about focusing on your skills. So that's why it is so important, very basic, to break it down to the basics. And that's where it becomes a team thing. That graph who watched Blue Abroad, there is a great evidence as well for pressure in a team environment of what we call aces in their places. So Cripps would be a great example. Do the basics. Cripps looks at his men and say, I'll win the fucking ball back, right? When the shit's the fan, I'll be the first person to put his head over the ball and win you it back. Walshy, this is your job. You're going to spread it. We need to keep our width. O'Brien, no matter what happens, never come and see me inside. Stay outside because Walsh needs it. And that's the disconnect you see at Carlton. They start panicking. Walsh and Setterfield and O'Brien, when they played on the wing, kept getting on the ball. So when we did win it back, they looked to try and spread the play, get it away from shit, and they're on top of each other. They're like, oh, I'm here now and helping you because you were struggling. And that's it. Discipline is huge under pressure.
But you're right, and you talk about the basics leaving you. So I think about my job early on in my career. You always have your leaders come and observe you, teach a lesson or whatever. And I remember, clear as yesterday, maybe my first or second year, leaders came in panicking. Oh my God, these people are watching me. The kids start acting like absolute, nightmares. And I actually lost the ability to do a simple maths equation on the board. Like it just left me, and I absolutely melted. To so much so that I would be in a panic anytime I heard someone was coming in my room. How do you fix that? Experience. Fast forward now, but come in my room, come watch it, no worries. And everyone's welcome. You want to come watch? No worries. Bring him in. I'll have 50 people in there. I'll have James Molino in there if he wants to come and watch. I eat pressure for breakfast now because that's what happens. You just evolve in that. But mate, it hasn't always been like that. 6-7 years ago, oh man, did I crumble under pressure when people were watching me teach. So,
mate, I'm with you. And thank you very much, Robbie, for the $2.99. You are a legend. I love you too, my friend. I think a really good thing as well about pressure, and anyone who's got kids out there, this is my favorite thing, Fazz, because you're going to relate to this. How often, right, when you see someone with a newborn baby, what have I got that I can use as an example? Here we are. I'll use this box, right? And you're like, oh, would you like to hold the baby? And they're like, and they freeze like this, right? And then, like, when you're like me and you've got the third baby, and I'm like this, my wife's like, oh, I've got to go out. And she just tosses me the baby. And I'm holding it one-handed. I'm pushing the other one into bed. Do you know what I mean? I just throw the baby over there. Do you know what I mean? It's how, like you say, experience and repetition. And the big point I want to make here, what is really hard to do is ever teach someone how to deal with pressure. I could teach anyone how to deal with pressure. It's my big passion, or any trauma in their life. But the hardest thing is expecting it when you have to do it. You can't do the thing. So basically, exactly what Fazz Senior said, it's about repeating the basics and making them so ingrained, like you, Fazz, getting used to, oh, okay, one person's in the room, two people's in the room. And a really quick method of it is self-accountability. It's one of the hardest things human beings do. Very hard for anyone to say, oh, yeah, I'm shit at this. So a real good method is exposing yourself to criticism and going, okay, right, great example in the chat, bomb kick. Doherty is one of the most guiltiest players at the club for doing the bomb kick under pressure. And he kicked 2 out of bounds in the fourth. But it's then bringing him back and asking him why he does that. So what was going through your mind? And I guarantee if Doc Tolt was sat here now, he'd say, okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention, Pommy. Well, in that situation there, I looked up and usually Sard is running on my inside. I've got the easy handball. He wasn't there. So then I had to clear my lines. At that stage, My right-hand side had been taken. I had to duck to the left. I was going backwards. I kicked over my shoulder. I panicked, right? So that's where you break it back as the coach and you go, right, okay, well, Sard, you're going to have to start making that run. You have to make that run no matter what. And also what I need from you, Lockie O'Brien, is to run into that channel to give him the short option should it not be there. And it's creating them pathways where the little basics and everyone feels good together. And I am of the school, yes, you might need senior leaders, but you don't need leaders if they're young leaders, if you can teach them the right pathways quickly.
Yeah. No, agreed. And geez, talk about digressing. What a segment that was. I actually, when we got the segments, I thought, oh, this would be the quickest one because wise heads, you need experience. Move on. It's just like, what a segment, what a conversation. I hope people are still with us because again, this is something that you're obviously very passionate about. I'm very passionate about in my profession, my role about bringing up young leaders and stuff. And yeah, what a segment. I'm going to listen to that back when we're finished and I'll see.
Hey, well, we've got more people and thank you. I'm glad everyone's in here. And I think we've got some wonderful comments as well because I know Carl's is passionate about that. But talking about oldies and youngies, talking about senior leaders, who is, in our opinion, the best over 33 in the competition? So I'll make it a bit easier for you in the chat. You've got Dane Zorko, Scott Pendlebury. You've got David Mundy. You've got Sean Higgins and Selwood and Hawkins and Smith from Geelong. You've got Todd Goldstein, Goldsack, Gray, and Boak. That'll throw some people. Edwards Rewalt, Ryder Geary, Lance Franklin, and Josh Kennedy, the Sydney one. You've got Josh Kennedy, the Eagles one, and Ern. And you've got Stephen Martin. So which of them really stands out?
Well, for me, I wrote two down. I wrote who my favorite was and who I think the best one is. And by my favorite is Mundy. David Mundy, I love him. He's not the best one, but I just wanted to throw Mundy in there because great career and he's obviously finishing up. But to me, it's clear as day, Scott Pendlebury. Scott Pendlebury, and it's daylight second. Classy, time. He's a game changer. You know, when Collingwood need to win, Pendlebury in the middle, bang, done, happens. He just is an amazing footballer, and I can see him playing again and again and again. He's just won't stop.
Mate, I'm with you. I'm with the chat as well. Do you know what I mean? I love a little bit. I rate Selwood. I do rate Selwood, but my favourite footballer when I came over here, other than a Carlton player, was Sam Mitchell. I loved him. And then Pendlebury reminds me of him in the terms of that time seems for him, in the terms of he can be like, he could play football in a crowded elevator and still find space. And he never looks rushed. And he makes me feel safe watching him. When I watch him, I feel totally relaxed. I always think if he was a Carlton player, he'd have the ball. I'd put my feet up and be like, okay,
oh,
cool.
Mate, being a a hater of Collingwood as such, I actually hate it when he gets the ball because you know something's going to happen, especially late in those games when you say, you know, oh, Collingwood are coming, and every time Pendles gets it, I'm like, oh, here's another one. Yeah, they're going to get over the line here. He's just brilliant. And this is another win with Pendlebury, why I would argue that people who are saying these Collingwood wins are luck and all this, sure, whatever, they might be. You've got to be a bit of luck. But when you got Scott Pendlebury in your team, there's no such thing as luck. He does it. You put Scott Pendlebury in Carlton's team, we're top 4. That is how good he is.
Mate, I love it. I don't think it's an unpopular opinion, Gav. I think Selwood is absolutely brilliant. I genuinely think he is actually a brilliant footballer. I would caveat his 3 flags, though, of look at the side he came into. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when people say to me, Chris Scott is one of the best coaches in the AFL at the moment. I always think, mate, you could have given that team to my son when he took it over, and he would have probably won a flag with it as well while he's just fucking throwing stuff. So yeah. I like that one. And we'll flip it now. And the gorgeous Lana and Gina, as always. Josh Kennedy, well done as well, and a great career. We're not going to talk about that Chris Judd trade, though, here. Fuck that. Fuck that. I can't believe that is a fucking conversation on socials. Like, who cares? But best youngie. So we're going 22 and under.
Yes.
I won't read the players out, but you should be able to work out who's under 22. We've done it for under 22 for a reason. Who are they, Fazz?
Well, I messaged you earlier and I said, "Oh shit, Pommy, I'm in trouble because I'm gonna pick another Collingwood player in this." And so I decided, no, I have to change it. But everyone knows who I'm going to pick because I absolutely love this kid. He is my favorite footballer in the competition right now. So I'm not going to pick him because I don't want to make it a Collingwood fest. So you can all guess who I'm going to say. But he is my favorite footballer in the competition right now. But I will say the best 22 and under would be, in my opinion, Zach Bailey from Brisbane. He gets goals. He's tough. Finds the footy. I love him. But yeah, everyone's mentioning it. To me, I'm just saying, yeah, I added Zach Bailey in there because I love watching him. But to me, it's Dacos. He is my favourite footballer in the competition at the moment.
Fazz. You know what? I can't. I'm gutted you didn't go the Collingwood double, bro.
Yeah, no, I will. It's Dacos. It has to be Dacos. I love him. I love him.
I think by Ray here, just to sidetrack, absolute fantastic comment as well. This is a huge part of development as well. It is giving leaders opportunity to lead from as early as possible. So when I came into work, without boring you, we had a management program that you had to be there in the company for 3 years or have relevant experience. And I tell you now, and I'm sure Carl's will back me up on this, when you work with people mentally, and I'm sure you will, Fazz, you see it, when teachers and people come in and you're with them for about 4 weeks and you're like, fuck me. It's like you've been here 20 years. Like, and I look at the people I train and I'm like, why can't you be like this guy? Or this girl? Why can't you be like this girl? She's brilliant. Spot on. I think they do get held back. And I'll caveat it. Look, when Walsh was named vice captain, the media were like, oh, too soon. Too soon. Why is it too soon? Why? Like, why can't you be a leader from the day you walk in the door? That is my thing. But to go on to the 23-year-old, I will say people are fuming as well. Your dad's fuming. You've gone Collingwood. Honestly, I think the most complete. This is. Can I just say, I hope I get invited to a Farrell family Christmas. I want in on a family barbecue.
You're always welcome.
I am going to be totally honest here. This is unbiased. I think the best complete footballer, defensively and offensively, is Walsh, I think. But I will throw a curveball, so I'm not purely Carlton centre focused. I think Andrew Brayshaw is, and he's just under 20.
I was just going to say, I didn't pick him because I thought he was, I thought he was over 22.
I will say, I think his ability from when he came into the system to now is absolutely night and day. I would go as far to say he's probably the most improved footballer I can remember I've seen from when he got drafted to where he is now. Sam Walsh, I think he's the best under 22 player. I think if you were picking players and valuing them, he is the best. But I think Brayshaw, for me, if I knew what I knew now when he was drafted, I think he's supreme. And I would agree with you. Nick Dacos.
Yeah, that's a great call. Phenomenal. The Brayshaw, I'm furious because I didn't even look the ages up. I just didn't pick him because I thought, Walsh is 22. Brayshaw went the year before. He must be 23. But he is a great call. He's 23 in November, but that's fine. You're right. Look, I'll get murdered in the chat. That's cool. Whatever. Look, cool. I hate Collingwood. I freaking hate Collingwood, right? But I call a spade a spade. I love Scott Penderbury and I love Dacos. It's not, I hope they absolutely fail when we play them, but I'd love, like you can't help it. Like, they're great footballers, just like any decent Collingwood supporter should say they reckon Walsh is good. It's simple as that. But for me,
I do love it, Fazz.
Oh, jeez. It's going to be another late night on the Twitter. I can tell you that right now. But look, we named some good players: Brayshaw, Walsh, Dacos. I still think Zach Bailey's a great shout by me. If I do say so myself. Yeah.
No, I think it's a great shout. I know we've got a lot of older guys in chat, and then we've got some middle-aged guys. Do you think that if you look at, because I went through and looked 23 and under, fuck me, we've got some talent. We've got some talent in the AFL. Do you think that we're potentially, when the Pendles and stuff, in about a year or two, I actually think we're probably going to be in for one of the richest decades since the 90s, 80s?
I actually had this conversation, I would say a month or so ago with my mate Mitch and Richie, and we literally said the same thing. We are coming into a Voss, Black, Hurd, Buckley era. These midfielders, they are next level. These young players, and even throw Charlie in there as your forwards. We are coming into this era that will be spoken about in 50 years' time. And it's no disrespect to some of the players rolling around now, but some of these players will be spoken about up there with the Vosses, Judds, Blacks, and all that. I agree 100%. Like I said, I had the conversation a month ago. It's going to be a very, very special competition in a couple of years' time.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And we go on to our popular thing. I mean, probably a risk because, what I enjoy is your Collingwood bias. And it was old Messrs. Gav Whelan, and then the Farrell family that turned on you. Absolutely turns me on. But what is your unpopular opinion this week?
Okay, well, Collingwood are getting ragged in my unpopular opinion, all right? So you can all just sit back, calm your farm, and have a listen to this, all right? My unpopular opinion is about the top 8, all right? And whoever makes it. 6 teams are making up the numbers, all right? It's literally Melbourne and Geelong, then Daylight. And I'll go through them one by one. Collingwood, I believe percentage tells you how good you are, right? They've got the second worst percentage in the top 10. They're shit. Move on. Happy? Sydney, too young, could do a doggies, but they're too inconsistent. Move on. Brisbane, please. You all know what I think about them, right? They're the most vanilla team in the competition. Boring. Get out of here. Can't win at the G. Next. Freo, no key forwards, no chance. Next. Blues, too young, not ready. St Kilda, all right, move on. Richmond, too injured, limping into finals, and the Dogs, please, can't possibly do 2016 again. 6 teams are making up the numbers. It's Melbourne and Geelong, then Daylight. It's literally, people talk about an open competition. I genuinely believe this is the worst top 8 we've ever had. There you go. Melbourne, Geelong, the other 6 or the 10, don't even bother showing up. There you go. That's my unpopular opinion.
Jeez, the year counting are in the 8 and Fazz dropped. Worst top 8 of all time, this.
I think it is. I think it says it all. The fact that a team's sitting third with a percentage of 106 is garbage. But anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. But I can't believe it. The fact that I actually wrote St Kilda down on that list sickens me more than anything. But anyway.
I've got to say my favourite bit of that was St Kilda and then just the giggle and move on. I would say my unpopular opinion, right, is the AFL knew and covered up the sensational training camp of Adelaide, as proven by the fact Sam McClure was vilified by AFL media, by Mark Rasciuto, who said that this is what's wrong with journalism today, that they're gutter press, and has since come out and said the club has done a lot of soul searching and they've accepted what they did. And I would go as far to say that AFL causes, if not all, of the mental health trauma that the AFL players see today, whether it be from social media, by the way they execute players. A great example this week was that they did an article saying that Carlton fans need to lay off the team after the wonderful season they had. Only for 2 hours later, the AFL dropped an article from an ex-coach who said this has to be bring your gum shield moment, and the players need running and burying into the ground.
Yeah.
Another example would be the fact that they want the players to talk openly about mental health, but then they release a video and start chastising Bailey Smith over a year ago when they didn't even allude in the article. They deliberately left out that video was when he was already on a mental health sabbatical, right? They left that out and they made it in the article. So my unpopular opinion is the AFL will sell their players' mental health and well-being to allow themselves to get revenue in their shitty, soppy articles from ex-chubby footballers I couldn't give a fuck about, so they can still feel relevant. I would say all the mental health issues in the AFL are AFL caused and AFL bred, and it is on them. And the fact, I find it disgusting that Sam McClure's name was dragged through the press by former players and him being told he is the reason that there's mental health. The fact that they all jumped to Tom Brown's defense until he was unfathomably exposed by the public is a disgrace. And until the AFL take themselves fucking serious and mental health for players seriously in the media that they fucking own, we're never going to improve.
Wow. That was amazing and could not be more spot on. Like, I am so sick of it, so sick of exactly what you've just said, that the media, I mean, I actually got blocked by Mitch Cleary on Twitter the other day. Basically, yeah, basically because I called him out for being a whatever. It's so true. And the AFL, they control all this. And the ones that they don't control, like Sam McClure, like that, who are coming out with this stuff, they try and bury them. It was amazing. That the best part about today was the vindication for Sam McClure. And again, and what I loved about him as well, he came out and said, it's not about me, it's about Eddie Betts and about the Adelaide players. And that was, he handled it with such dignity. And I couldn't be happier for the guy. But again, dead silence. Where's the apologies? He should have a line bloody outside his door of people apologizing to him after the way his career nearly got ruined because of this. And he ended up being right.
Mate, I saw when, Brownie, and he's accepted he said things wrong and he's no longer in the media, but they were quick to defend him. They were quick to defend him when he went up against Beveridge. And I'm going to put my hand out here and my neck on the line to say I thought he behaved like a petulant child with Beveridge. Yes, Beveridge was wrong, but I thought it reminded me of my kid answering me back at bedtime. So if I was Beveridge, I would have told him he was a prick as well, right? But the fact they defended him and then suddenly he's saying all this and they couldn't make it disappear fast enough, for me, the AFL need to take a long, hard look at themselves in the media, because it got me going this morning when they said, oh, Carlton fans have too much expectation on the players, oh, poor players. But then suddenly we're like, oh, they need to bring the gum shields and bully these players into submission. And I'm like, well, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Be a better person. Do you know what I mean? And I agree with George. I mean, I agree with Michael as usual, spot on. It's amazing. Don't get me started on Fev. Did a massive expose 3 years ago about mental health, gambling, saying that the club didn't help him and he fell into a vicious circle. Now the face of a betting fucking organisation. Come on, people. You know what I mean? It does my head in. But thank you, everyone. That was my rant. Floor is yours. Floor is yours. We've got some great ones. And I found out the other day how to highlight. So when you guys do put these wonderful things in, I can remember where you are. Carl's asks, do you think the countdown clock during games, especially for the 5 minutes, so players can see the time remaining? I think they should go back to the countdown clock.
Yeah, I think so too. Everyone in the ground knows. Everyone on watching TV knows. The coaches know. The supporters know. You just have to open your AFL app during a game and it comes up with how long there is to go. The only people in the entire world who don't know how long to go as the blokes playing the game. That's just ridiculous. And Andy Marr, I'll go after him as well. He's constantly on there saying it adds to the drama. It adds to the drama. You what? Adds to the drama? Are you serious? Like, if you had the ball, it's like when you play the basketball, right? If you had the ball and there's 15 seconds to go, you can make the decision then. We're going to go because we know we're the only team that can score here. I think if anything, it adds to the drama because by the time the message gets out from the bench to you can hold up all the signs, whatever you want, gets to the players, the time's gone. Like I saw one holding up 90 seconds to go, and I look at the clock; it was 45 seconds to go. I mean, you're so far off it. Bring it back to countdown. Let the players.
Yeah, I agree, Carl's as well, and I agree with Fazz. I've started hiding it on the watch-alongs.
Mm.
And I actually say it's a lot more fucking... That game against Hawthorn, I had it covered up. I'll tell you what, I was allowed to look at it once in 5 minutes, and it was 3 minutes to go. That felt like 6 hours without knowing the time. And it was probably the most fun I've had clothed. It was the most fun I've had clothed. I think it's good. And
either put count up for everyone or count down for everyone. Don't have this mixture of both because, like I said, everyone knows how long there is to go except for the players. That doesn't make sense to me.
Do you know what I mean? I love it. And where do we think Tim Taranto goes next year? This is a great one for the audience as well because GWS seem to be linked to lose their players. And going back to someone's comment here from Fab, nothing is transparent in the AFL. Here's a good example because that salary cap at GWS must be fucking unlimited, isn't it? But where do we think Taranto will end up if he does leave?
Oh, geez. This might sound disrespectful, but he looks like a St Kilda player. I think he looks like he'd fit in at St Kilda, that Jack Billings type player. Not good enough to play in the midfield, barely good enough to play forward, but you get to go because you can do a couple of fancy things. I think he's got St Kilda written all over him. That's what
Well, I mean, he's Italian, plays on the ball, plays a bit forward, can go on the outside, dark hair, but it's not very good, loves yachts. So, I mean, and he wants a lot of money. So, I mean, he is a stereotypical Carlton side, isn't he? But I think he'll go to Collingwood. I think you'll like that, Fazz. I think he will be Collingwood's next superstar. That's my prediction.
Whew. Nice.
I mean, people asking here, why do you hate... Well, I mean, I hope my wife doesn't watch this episode because she's going to be like, you're not allowed to speak to that man anymore.
How long do you got? No, well, I don't hate them. I just don't like things I don't respect. That's all. And it's simple as that.
Jesus. To be fair, you haven't buried anyone. You haven't buried any town this week, which I think is good for us. And the last one here, well, answer, I did see it. Where is it? Someone did ask. I've lost it because I didn't highlight it. The chat popped. But it was, do you think Carlton will still make the 8?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I do. Why not?
I've got a sneaky suspicion that Carlton win 2 of the 3. I'm not 100% confident, and I've got to admit I've been battered and bruised. But I'm a man of my word. I've just got a feeling that I've got to look at it this way. The last 3 games I had here, for Carlton to be taken serious in finals, they have to break even versus Brisbane and Melbourne and win the last game. So as it looks that way, that locks you in. 2 wins guarantees it. 1 win means other people. But if you look at it, chances are 1 win gets you through. But mate, I've got a sneaky feeling that Carlton make 2 wins. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling.
I put it as simple as this. The other teams have got to be flawless for the last 3 games, pretty much. Richmond without Grimes, without this, I can easily see Richmond losing their final 3 games. I can easily see that happen. No Martin, no Grimes. So I think we'll make it. I think we'll win it. We'll win it least one of the next 3, and I just can't see. Essendon are going to be really important for us. I think Essendon will be. I think they're going to be a big player for us, and I think Hawthorn are going to be big players for us. And whether you're relying on other teams or whatever, like I don't subscribe to this thing of you shouldn't rely on other teams, because you're relying on other teams unless you win all 22 games. You're relying on other teams, so it's good to focus on these teams. I think we'll win one of those games. We're too good not to.
I think we'll win one of the 3.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, I was a little bit. This is a great one here. Do you have an opinion on McVeigh and his rant the other day? Is this in reference to his players apologised to him for
checking out when he said in the press conference that they checked out?
Checking out. I liked it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like it when a coach shows a bit of hoot.
Yeah. One of my biggest beefs, and we spoke about this with the Michael Voss press conference, is, back yourself in. As a leader, as a coach, back yourself in. This is the way it is. And I've got no issues in being transparent. Be honest. We all saw it. So yeah, I rated it. And I think there should be more of that. It's a professional sport, for God's sake.
Mate, I agree with you. And I thought, obviously, it's one of them ones that is a grey area. A grey area in the terms of people don't like it, do they? People really don't like it in the AFL when players are called out. I think if it's in their role, it is. I do like to see a bit of an accountability. I will finish with the Carlton thing in the terms of this week. I've heard it all before from the club. And if we're going into development, the biggest sign that you're not developing is when you start harping about what you could have done and what you have done. So if you notice this week, Carlton have really made an effort of reminding you they were 8-2 at one bit. Waitering did it, H did it, Voss did it, about we could do this. And I think I wouldn't go as far as calling players out. Do you know what I mean? And I think the players he called out were players that we expect to leave anyway. So, and he said that the players had texted him. Do you know what I mean? For me, I'd like to see some coaches sometimes say, look, instead of saying like Voss said, we got beaten around the contest, but then Harry says, when Voss talks, we want to run through a wall. Obviously, this week it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, establish why it hasn't. And I think you can talk about that in a very productive development way. Sometimes I think, and it has worried me this week about Carlton. I was very hot this week. We were going to win by 40 against Adelaide. Nothing changed my mind. They should have done. But when they don't turn up, I expect a bit more of a reaction internally from a coach to give me, a fan, a shareholder of this club, some level of acceptance other than, yeah, we weren't quite good round the contest, but we were doing the first 6 rounds and we're the number 1 team. Yeah. I do think you can keep things private to an extent, but say we've identified the reasons.
And I think that's a great point. And as far as this week goes, I've seen a lot of negativity saying we can't win, Brisbane will batter us, blah, 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 blah. And I just want to direct people to a few points here. We are closer to Brisbane on the ladder than what the Bulldogs and Richmond are to us. Let that sink in. We're closer to Brisbane than what Bulldogs and Richmond are to us. So why are sudden Bulldogs and Richmond getting all the praise? All right, that's one thing I'll say. We're closer to Brisbane. The second thing I'll say is no one gave Adelaide a chance on the weekend. Carlton should go there, romp at home, bring in. Why is everything just a fait accompli all the time? If the favourites won every single week, sport wouldn't exist because no one would watch it. So do I think Carlton will win on Sunday? I do. I genuinely think we can win. Because why not? That's the thing. Like, why would you write it off before it even happens? It's the biggest load of crap and the biggest load of bullshit I see in supporters all the time. If you're going to write off something before it even happens, then what are you getting out of bed for in the morning? Seriously.
Mate, as soon as it can turn shit it can turn good. So it works the same way. Do you know what I mean? As quickly as you can drop. I think for me, I'm reserving judgment as if I'm hitting the panic alarm yet, purely based on they've got a job to do. And do you know what I mean? One thing that worries me, the last 7 weeks have been reactions. They've had to lose one, win one. Lose one, win one. Do you know what I mean? They've bounced back well. There comes a point in time, though, in our development now that we can't keep reacting and we have to start impacting. And I think, do you know what I mean? Jury's out for me. I'm still going in with an element of confidence because I love the club and I know they can do it. For me, it's how they mentally adapt to this. Mentally
100%.
adapt.
100%.
And we're going to learn a lot about them.
Excellent.
So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Love you all. I can't wait to see you next week. Send in your questions. Great show tonight, though. Most people ever watching at the same time. So looking forward to next week. Until next time, we love you both.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you later.